Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session on Humanizing Your Online Course. I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today and engage with you as we explore techniques and principles and related theory on humanizing your online course. My name is Dr. Yvonne Johnson, and I'm the Multimodal Teaching Coordinator in the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning at Northern Illinois University. A little bit about my background. I have a doctorate in instructional technology with an emphasis in inclusive pedagogy and online design, a master's degree in adult education with an emphasis in critical pedagogy and human resources training and development, and a bachelor's degree in psychology with an emphasis in organizational development. As a member of the Center for the Innovative Teaching and Learning team, I work with faculty, instructors, and graduate teaching assistants who teach in all modalities. If you teach online, face-to-face, hybrid, flexible models, full-term sessions, accelerated sessions, I can help you with all of those different types of delivery and design modalities. I also teach research courses for the Colleges of Education and the College of Health and Human Sciences at NIU, and and I teach in a variety of modalities as well, face-to-face, online, accelerated. Those are graduate level courses, and I look forward to having the opportunity to share my expertise and to learn from you as we engage today in the Humanizing online session. Now, to build community, we'll start with introductions of you as the participants. You can go to the chat box, and if you would answer the questions, you can list your name and department, what you teach at NIU, or what your role is at NIU, and what do you hope to gain from the workshop today. If you want to engage your microphone and video, that's fine. Just raise your hand and we can go through that. We'll do some brief introductions and then we'll move into the content. Okay. I see we have a number of people online that, okay, Jim is from political science and teaches American government. Bill is teaches music and wants to learn about how to make students feel comfortable online. Okay, so we have some. Anybody else want to share? Alicia, clinical instructor for pediatric nursing, hopes to find a way to connect with students using Blackboard. And Samantha, director of digital marketing at NIU. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing your introductions. We have Emily is in the sociology department and wants to learn how to better connect and engage with students online. Janet is from speech pathology, wants to get ideas about how to connect. So we have a number of people who want to learn strategies for connecting with students online. Ji is a computer science professor, wants to learn about engagement online. Pam teaches accountancy, wants to learn about interaction online. And Matt teaches legal research for the College of Law, hoping to keep himself engaged and be present with students online as well. And Melissa, new online instructor, strategic planning, knowledge and discipline. Great. Okay, thank you all so much. And the reason that we have Harvey Blau, emeritus visiting professor in mathematical sciences. He'll be teaching an online class in the fall for the first time. Okay, wants to encourage student responses and questions, and wants to learn about exams online. And we do have some other sessions about assessments online, and you can find those on the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning website. So yes, that's great. We have a wonderful mix of people here today from different disciplines, and that is really important for establishing a strong foundation for building a human environment online and building a space where people feel comfortable sharing their knowledge. And we have a rich variety of disciplines, so that's terrific. Thank you all for sharing that. And you can use introductions in your own courses to start building that foundation for humanizing your environment as well. You can do that through discussion boards or through a session like this, and we'll talk about some other techniques as we go through the session today. To get us focused on the topic for today, just think briefly, what comes to your mind when you think about humanizing an online course? What does that mean to you? And this is not something that I want you to think deeply about, just what kind of pops on the top of your to your mind quickly when you're thinking about what does humanizing an online course mean to you. And you can type on the whiteboard. Looking at the top of your screen, there is a pencil icon that you can use to click on the pencil, and you can try to write your answer, or you can click on the T, which is a text box, and you can type your answer. And if people would just share a little bit about what humanizing the online environment means to them. And the text, if you click on the big T, it's probably a little bit easier to share information that way because you can type. And people are saying humanizing the online environment means personalizing, being present, not just uploading PowerPoints and leaving them there for the students to explore. Community, building community, creating regular human presence, making connections. Okay, that's great. So you're touching on a number of things that we'll be exploring a little bit deeper today. The more than just discussion and conversation, building community, and there's a comment about it can feel like a lonely space, and there's discussion about whether synchronous or asynchronous, and so we'll consider some of those different aspects of humanizing a course today. Thank you all very much for sharing your perspectives. That's gives us an idea of where you're starting from in terms of humanizing the course. And today what we're going to talk about is presence in an online course. We're going to talk about why presence in an online course is important and how you build instructor presence, social and cognitive presence. Those are the main aspects that we'll be talking about today in this session. Something to keep in mind when you are humanizing your online course and designing and delivering it is designing and thinking about teaching with equity in mind. And I have a screen on the slide about different aspects of equity online and the community, the social aspects, psychological aspects, and the audience, and these things interface with what we're talking about today. And so building this human environment connects with and supports the development of an online environment that is equitable. First, let's get into what is presence and why is that important. And one of the comments on the whiteboard when people were sharing what they think of in terms of an online environment was someone said they felt like it might be lonely, an environment that doesn't feel connected. And so let's talk about presence for a little bit. And we're going to talk about the different types of presence, um, teaching presence, social presence, and cognitive presence, and how you can build these types of presence in an online course. When you're creating a course and delivering a course that has a sense of presence, you are having opportunities for everyone to share their different perspectives. And one example of that that we used today was we had a whiteboard and people shared their perspective of what humanizing an online environment is. Another aspect is constructing meaning through communication. So building that human environment online has opportunities for students to share information and to listen to different perspectives and construct meaning, analyze, deconstruct the different perspectives, and construct new meaning. Presence also involves establishing learners and the instructor as individuals. It is important that we realize that each of us that enters that online environment brings with us our unique perspectives, our unique talents, our strengths, our views, our knowledge, experience, and we're unique, and those are valuable aspects of an online environment. And we want to make sure that people are creating their unique presence in the online course. And building trust and relationships is also an aspect of presence in a human online environment. A number of people on the whiteboard mentioned that they thought that community is an important aspect of building a human environment. And yes, Samantha, we're going to be looking at examples throughout this session. So thank you for raising that. Samantha asked for examples, and we're going to have examples throughout this session. So thank you. The community of inquiry model gives us a framework from which to think about how to humanize an online environment and how the social presence and the cognitive presence and instructor presence all connect and intersect to create that educational experience, which is why we want to make sure that we have addressed each type of presence when we are thinking about designing and delivering our course. And to dig a little bit deeper into that, yes, I will share the information after the session. There was a question about the session. I'm going to share the recording after this. Yes, thank you. So digging a little bit deeper into the different types of presence, intersections between social presence, we're establishing social presence, interactions between the people in the environment, and the cognitive presence, that the thinking, the critical thinking, the metacognition, the assignments, the connections between that social presence and cognitive presence supports the discourse in the class, which is why you want to make sure that you do take time for those introductions that allow people to share a little bit about themselves, and then they will feel more comfortable to share and have a discourse and really dig deeper in and get deeper into that cognitive presence when they're online learning. And you as the instructor creating your presence online intersects with the social presence and setting a climate. And we're going to get into each one of these types of presence a little bit deeper in just a moment. And the instructor presence connects with the cognitive presence and is kind of seen by the students in how you select the material. And all of this fits together in terms of how the students and you experience that online course and how human it feels. To start looking at the different types of presence, I'm going to show you a series of scenes, ocean scenes. And what I would like for you to do is consider each one individually and then think about, just briefly, what that scene represents to you in terms of climate. Does it represent a peaceful, calm, welcoming climate? Does it represent a challenging climate? So I'm going to show a series of these landscapes, these ocean scenes, and what I would like for you to do is to just think about, like, one word in terms of climate. What does that image mean to you in terms of climate? And then we'll talk about it after you've looked at the series of images. And I think there's maybe 10 images, so we'll just go through them. You'll have them on the screen for just a couple of seconds each. So I'm going to show the first image. Okay, I've shown about 10 different images and asked that you think about what the image represents in terms of climate that might be established in your online course. And what I would like for you to do is to use the whiteboard tools. You can click on the pencil at the top of the screen and just make a mark, a check mark or some kind of a mark on an image that you think would be a climate that you would like to foster in your online course. And you can change the color of the pencil by clicking on the palette if it's not showing that well. So we have checks in a few different boxes on images. Would someone like to share why they clicked, why they selected the image for the climate that they would like to set up for their class? And you can raise your hand and share just a brief explanation of why you selected that image. Okay, I see we have N. Young. Okay, can you engage your microphone and video and let us know why you selected the image? What image did you select and why did you select it?
Yes, I selected the image of the seals on the beach because when I think of
Okay, we
those,
can't hear you.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know why my mic isn't working.
Okay, I can't hear you. So maybe your microphone is not. Okay, that'd be fine if you just type. Okay, thank you. You're gonna type. Okay, Harvey, I see that you have your hand raised. Would you engage your microphone and share why you selected the image?
Yeah, well,
And you can turn on your
you,
video if you want. Okay, yep, we can
my
see it. So
pencil,
why did you select, what image did you select
okay,
and why did you select it?
I intended to check two of them. My pencil's all over the place,
Can't
so
hear you, Harvey.
I'm
Maybe we
sorry.
need your
It's
volume turned up.
okay. Settings.
Oh, you can hear him? Okay, hold on a second. All right. Okay, I
Okay,
can't hear
evidently
him.
people can hear me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, uh, the two, I like the seals because they look comfortable, you know, and warm. And teaching upper level math or even lower level, it's always a challenge for students to feel comfortable. The other one I like is the peer sort of going off forever because the course is sort of a journey into infinity, and I want students to be comfortable with proceeding on such a journey.
Okay, for some reason I can't hear Harvey, but but everybody else can.
Should I put it in the chat box?
I don't know why. Okay. So maybe can we use the text chat? I don't know what's going on with the audio here on this. Could you type just a brief
Yep.
comment about that, Harvey, in the text chat, please? Sorry about that. Okay, so the seals and comfortable and warm. Okay, great. And I remember from your teaching professor's seminar that you used a guitar in your sessions to, yeah, yes, to create warmth and engagement. Yes, thank you. Okay, so the seals and a comfortable environment, a comfortable, welcoming environment so that students feel comfortable sharing, and that is very important for establishing a safe environment so people feel comfortable sharing. Okay, thank you, Harvey. Appreciate it. Okay, and then, okay, and we also have the SEALs chosen because they talk a lot and you teach future teachers and you want them to communicate. Okay, great. That makes sense. The peer to infinity, Harvey talking about taking a journey. Yes. And Alicia chose the yellow crab because you thought of the represents curiosity. And G, the seal's picture of harmony and waves. The waves represent activity, excitement. Okay, great. Harvey, you raised your hand. Did you have a comment? Okay, could you type it in the chat box, Harvey? I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with this audio in my headset, but it's working in terms of transmission. Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you. And to go over a few of the other images, the waves, perhaps that's, you know, when you really have, you're on a roll and the class really has good momentum and you're really going to the next levels. Maybe there's the different people on the benches. You might have students pair up and have partner type discussions and then share with the larger group. The waves coming together where they're crashing against the rocks, maybe that's when there's those complex conversations when students are really challenged to think about different perspectives. Are they really wrestling with the content? And okay, great. The turtle looks inquisitive, looks like is ready to learn, and the ocean with the clouds. Maybe those are those reflective moments, and we'll talk about those as we move through the session. Great, thank you so much. And one of the things to also keep in mind is you might use set different types of climates for different class sessions depending upon what your pedagogical goals are. The reason that all of these the images are ocean themed is they represent individual images related to a more complex whole environment, which represents your online class. And sometimes maybe you'll be setting up take the journey with the students, and sometimes maybe maybe it's best to have an in-depth discourse about some of these complex or difficult topics. Sometimes reflection is maybe the climate that you're trying to set, which is, as I said, why we have the individual images that represent the whole more complicated, multifaceted landscape of the ocean. Great, thank you all for sharing that. And methods for establishing instructor presence, that's your presence as the person teaching the course. You can introduce yourself with a few personal details, and you might record video announcements. You can record mini introductions to each week. Have a video of yourself introducing each week. It can be a micro video that the students get accustomed to seeing you and they feel like you're there with them, and it helps. And we have some tools at NIU. Kaltura is an easy tool that you can use, and our center has extensive support for recording tools that can help you. Providing meaningful feedback on assessments is important in helping humanize the environment, and engaging with students in the discussion board. On the screen, you can see an example of how you can share information about yourself as the professor. I have a picture of myself. I have a recording. This is an example of a screenshot of a short introduction to each of the weekly modules to establish myself, my instructor presence. Have some information about my background, my interests, my education, professional experience, and then a little bit about, I like to kayak, so that might be something that kind of brings a little bit of a personal touch when you create something like that and share it in the online environment. There's the screenshot of my video announcements for each week. This is a screenshot that shows feedback that you can give on an assignment. You can give positive feedback. It says great work. I thought the forward reading, look forward to reading more of your posts, more input from you. There's specific feedback on the actual paper. You can use the Blackboard inline grading tools to provide this feedback, and students really like that. My students appreciate that type of feedback, and I'm sure that yours do too. Engaging with the students in the discussion board is another way, and it's important to balance that. Yes, Alicia, I'll show, she asked if there's an asynchronous format that works to use for recordings on discussion board, and I'll show a little Flipboard. That's a tool that you could use is Flipboard, and we have resources about that on our Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning site. So Alicia was talking about recordings, and so you can share text responses to the discussion board. You can share video. Different ways that you can engage with the discussion board, different roles that you can serve is you might ask prompts to to ask for more clarification. You might ask students to elaborate. Kind of think strategically about how you want to work with that discussion board and consider these different roles that you take. And that would kind of guide your actions when working with the discussion board. Encouraging different perspectives, weaving through the points, bringing together students' different comments is an approach that you can have. Asking them what are the implications of what they've explained in their post. Sometimes what people do is, as a professor, they will, instead of responding to a number of individual posts, they will go over the discussion board and then they will share a summary with the whole group at the end of the module or at the beginning of the next module and say, in the discussion board, here's a summary of the main topics that came up, and that's a different way to engage with the discussion board. Manage your online presence is an aspect of humanizing an online course. And Flower Darby is a prominent online educator. She was part of our online teaching symposium that we hosted in May. And she talks about regular engagement with students, posting regular announcements, and recognizing students as individual humans. And I have a link to the Association of Colleges and University Educators on the screen, and you can see they released a toolkit recently, just within the last week, and the toolkit helps address key topics related to online teaching. And so we had Flower Darby in the May online teaching symposium. Just a quick chat activity. In terms of your instructor presence, how might you, what might you do to establish instructor presence? Do you think you might create these short online introductory videos or engage with the chat, or what do you think you might do in your course? And if you could just type in the chat just to kind of give me an idea and others an idea of what tools you might use. The online weekly short videos, yes. And we're going to have our fall Teaching Effectiveness Institute is going to be hosted August 13th and 14th, and it's going to be online. And we're going to talk about video and how you can use it in your online courses to connect with students. And we're going to have some simple techniques that you can use. So that's something that you might consider registering for. Okay, another person, okay, great. Another person's talking about the introductory videos. I have a tool called Kaltura that is a video recording tool available to everyone that works at NIU. It's very user-friendly, and I use it myself, and professors have indicated that they find it a useful tool. So it's something you might consider. Another aspect of presence is the social presence. How are you going to build the culture in an online environment? And we talked a little bit about establishing learners as individuals and building relationships, setting up activities and that help to build relationships among the learners, that help to build trust among learners, and then building all of those aspects, helping to build an online learning community that helps learners feel included and helps learners construct knowledge together. Those are all important aspects of humanizing an online course. Another speaker who is well known for his use of video in online courses is Michael Wesch, and he's out of Kansas State. Flower Darby is out of Arizona, And Michael Wesch is on the screen now. He will be one of our keynote speakers for our Teaching Effectiveness Institute that is scheduled for August of this year. And he will share tips about how he's used video to create a social presence in the online course. Earlier in the chat, trying to see, someone asked about, okay, Alicia asked about an asynchronous format that you could use for discussion boards instead of text posts. And you can use Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a fairly simple tool. On the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, we have some resources about Flipgrid, and it creates a discussion with these mini videos. So I could post a mini video with my response to a discussion board, and then a student could post their response in a mini video. So that's an option that allows people to communicate, supports building of social presence online using a multimedia approach as opposed to just a text approach. And the students can hear each other, they can engage with each other, see each other, and they enjoy using tools like Flipgrid and other video to build social presence in their online courses. We talked about having students introduce themselves. You can ask them to build social profiles on Blackboard. In your design of the course to help create social presence, you can integrate those deep, thought-provoking questions, prompts, and we're going to have some samples of those in a little bit, and incorporate collaborative learning opportunities where students can work with each other. A discussion board is a simple way that students can introduce themselves. As we said, Flipgrid is another way. When you're thinking about those thought-provoking discussions, you can design the prompts to focus on different levels of knowledge. You might ask them questions that relate to application, excuse me, or analysis. You're getting to or synthesis, different levels of complexity that are required. They would need a more in-depth knowledge to synthesize information than to merely recite what you said. So think about thought-provoking questions that have specific goals in mind in terms of your pedagogy. Paul Elder's model of critical thinking is something else that you can consider. If you want to focus on clarity or breadth or precision, there are different prompts that you can use. And a couple of people have asked about the PowerPoint, and I will share the PowerPoint after the session with you all so that you can have reference to these various different theories and techniques that you can use. Collaborative learning is important for creating that social presence online where students work together. You can use, in Blackboard Collaborate, for instance, you can create breakout groups where students work together, or you can create different opportunities for them to engage with each other to construct knowledge. And when you're considering collaborative learning, there are two key aspects of collaborative learning. They're working to solve problems in the company of others. There is a team of people working together to solve these problems together. And when collaborating, the students need to really thoughtfully and carefully listen to each other and consider the insights of each other to come up with those ways to solve problems and construct knowledge. Does anyone use collaborative learning in their courses now? You could, in the text chat, you could say if you use collaborative learning for certain projects in your courses. Okay, the collaborative learning allows people with different backgrounds and perspectives to be able to construct knowledge together and hear different perspectives and points of view. Some of the tips for, okay, Janet says she uses breakout groups in Blackboard. That's an excellent way to have students work with smaller groups of people, and when you refer to them as teams, that helps in terms of helping students to consider them collaborative. Sometimes there are different perspectives of group work. If you call them teams, sometimes people are more accepting of that. Focus on the process, not the product. What are they learning throughout this process? How are they constructing their knowledge? You can interject reflection questions into the collaborative learning activities to help students to process their information and gain insights as they're going through these projects. Having the teams set up goals or contracts is something that you can do where they are together constructing those expectations and boundaries for each other. And when the students construct those in accordance with some boundaries that you've set, then they are more accepting of those standards. And Harvey encourages collaboration on homework with independent write-ups. Great. Okay, yes. So they're learning from each other. Great. Okay, in terms of social presence, for your online courses, what might you do? Do you think you'll use collaborative learning? Maybe will you use Flipgrid to help students to introduce themselves? What techniques might you use in your online courses? Janet mentioned breakout groups. Yes. Yes. Okay, and encouraging those independent write-ups that were based upon collaboration with students. Yes, that's great. Thank you. Cognitive presence is also important in an online course. We've talked about your presence as an instructor, social presence for yourself as an instructor and the students, and cognitive presence. We are in an institution of higher education. We focus on teaching and learning, and encouraging that deep learning is very important in online courses. And how do you go about doing that? Have students share multiple perspectives. How are they constructing the knowledge? What does the information that they're learning in the course mean to them? Cognitive presence requires sustained communication, and one of the things that Flower Darby talks about, and I do in my course, and is ongoing communication, regular patterns of communication. Encouraging that critical thinking and collaborative reflection to take their understanding and knowledge construction to those deeper levels, critical thinking levels that will move their knowledge from short-term memory to long-term memory, and they'll have a more comprehensive understanding of what you're addressing in class. Engaging students in readings and micro lectures, that is a screenshot of Flower Darby again, and there's a link on the screen to the video about this. Micro lectures are those shorter lectures that focus on a topic, get a little bit deeper. Instead of having a long lecture of an hour, micro lecture, maybe you'll take one topic and talk about it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and just focus on that. And it can help students to focus more deeply on one topic. And if there's something that's really complex and students historically have had challenges understanding, then you might decide to do create a micro lecture for that and post it in the unit that is associated with that content. And then the students can kind of dig deeper into that. Incorporating critical thinking and pedagogy strategies, we talked about Paul Elder's model of critical thinking. Problem-based learning is another way to help students to deal with those more complex problems. And metacognitive and reflective thinking, those are techniques that relate to cognitive presence. There are communication strategies that you can use to encourage self-directedness, and there's different stages, and I will share this with you. I know it's a small on the screen, but there are different stages that you can go through to encourage students to develop as self-directed learners. And it's important that students gain those skills and are able to use those skills in an online environment, because they're often in the environment when other people aren't in there. So they need to know how to be able to be successful as a self-directed learner. Problem-based learning. Has anyone used problem-based learning in their courses? Problem-based learning is a type of approach where students are assigned a complex set of circumstances, a complex problem, and there's a process that you guide them through that helps them to solve the problem. They work collaboratively with others, and instead of teaching the students the content first, you assign the problem to them, this multifaceted, complex problem to them. And then through the process of guiding them through this problem-based learning project, they learn the content through this discovery process. And I do a separate workshop on that. It's a very powerful technique. It's not appropriate for all types of content, but it is an option, and it connects with that cognitive presence in a learning environment. Metacognitive and reflective thinking is important. I use this a lot in my classes. Rather than have the students ask me what they've learned, what are they supposed to learn from this, I give students prompts and then have them discover and reflect and then share what they've learned and why it's important to them. Why it's important to them in their life, in their profession, in their academic career. And it's much more powerful if students do this through reflection on their own than just asking the professor for the answer. There are a series of reflection questions. Stavridis has created them, and I have them on the screen. There are different reflection questions that you can use at the beginning of the course. A lot of times professors will ask, why did you take this course? You know, asking students what are their strengths, what are their academic challenges, helps them to kind of reflect on their starting point in the course. And then in terms of major assignments, ask them, what did they learn from this activity? How did they spend their time? What went well? Maybe what could they have done differently? What would they do differently next time, possibly? What did they learn about their learning style? What were the challenges, and how did they overcome those challenges? And one of the tools that we also have in the at NIU that is available to everyone is Kaltura. It's that I mentioned it earlier in terms of using it for capturing videos. You can also integrate quizzes into Kaltura. You could use as knowledge checks, and we have a lot of resources at the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning related to Kaltura. So when you create a video and post it in your online course, professors ask, well, how do I know the students watched the video and things like that? Well, you can integrate questions with the videos, and then the students will have to answer the question before they can move on. You can integrate them at the end of the video, however you decide. But these can help to build that cognitive presence. And if you want resources about that, we have them on our Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning site. At the end of the course, the reflection questions could be rate your level of knowledge, what were your objectives, what are your objectives going forward, what strategy did you use to meet the criteria for the assignments, etc. And then the question about Kaltura quizzes, yes, they can, the process of the setting them up and everything is explained on our site, but you can integrate the answers to the questions in Kaltura. But if you want more information about actually how that works, I would recommend that you look at our site, and I can put in our post session email the link to the Kaltura quizzes. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Now, in terms of cognitive presence, we talked about a number of approaches that you could use, and we're getting to the end of the session here. So just to kind of wrap up, we talked about the community of inquiry model and how the different types of social presence, they intersect to create that foundation for a humanized online experience for teaching and learning. And it's a research-based model that has been used extensively. There's a selected list of references. And again, my name is Yvonne Johnson. And if you have questions, I'm happy to help. Hold on one second.